What's up? Welcome back to another devlog. We're a farming app now. We're all in on farmers. We're just a down home, blue collar app. We're just salt of the earth. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of updating, but in all seriousness, there is an interesting update. We have a very interesting marketing channel that is way out of what I would normally have expected, but I think it's a really good idea and we're going down that channel. We also got our new onboarding flow completely up. It's on the App Store. We did a ton of localizations, and right now we're just kind of waiting to see if any of these make an impact and then going down our organic marketing channels. What's up? If you're new here, I'm Grayson. I've been a developer for quite a while, and I've always wanted to start something that made real money. And so that's what this is. It is the road to $1,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. Right now we are at $8 a month. This is the series where I show you absolutely everything that I'm working on, all of the analytics, and there's no closed doors, and we dig into everything. The app I'm doing this all on is called RecipePT. It is a recipe app that has real memory. It tries to remember what you like so that it can suggest recipes that actually are catered to what you'll probably like instead of just doing the infinite TikTok recipe scroll. Let's get into analytics. Okay, so analytics. First, before we jump in, it's very important to tell you, this week we didn't run any paid ads at all. That's the first week in a while that we haven't run any paid ads. Last week we did, so the numbers will be down, but I'm still pretty optimistic just because the numbers are not as bad as I would have thought having turned off ads. So this week at the website, we had 183 unique viewers, whereas last week it was 1,363. Sounds like a massive drop off, but remember, almost every single one of those 1,300 were paid from TikTok, whereas the 183 this week were almost entirely organic. Now, one thing that makes me really optimistic about this is the average time on page for a user this week is 25 seconds, whereas last week is 1 second. So that indicates last week it was a ton of people who were just getting on the website, then immediately bouncing because they didn't intend to click, whereas this week it was actually intentional clicks who wanted to see the website. A lot of those visits are coming directly from Pinterest. As I post more and more, people are starting to click on links, click on recipes, and come to the site more and more, and that's proving to become kind of our base there. It's getting a good amount of traffic. It's not generating a lot of downloads because people are pretty low intent. They're looking for recipes. They're not necessarily looking to download an app, but that is by far a majority of our traffic. Another interesting angle we have coming up is we hit 1,000 followers on TikTok, so now I finally have a link in the bio, so I should be able to see how much traffic we can generate directly from TikTok. I can finally track that, finally understand people coming directly from TikTok to see the site. Hopefully that is a meaningful increase because we get a ton of profile views on TikTok because that's kind of our main channel of, our main organic channel. But we talked about those top funnels. How did those translate into downloads? We got 6 downloads this week, which is kind of funny because last week we also had 6 downloads. So, last week we spent $200 on TikTok ads, whereas this week we spent $0 on any ads. So to see the same number of downloads kind of tells you all you need to know about TikTok ads, or at least the ads we were running on TikTok. It just didn't work at all for conversions, which makes somewhat sense. Those are low intent users. But 6 downloads this week. We got 2 trial starts, which is great. None of those trials were on the new onboarding. We haven't had a lot of time with the new onboarding, so we haven't had a lot of users go through it. So 4 people went through the new onboarding. We didn't have any of them pay so far, but we had 2 trial starts from the previous onboarding. One of them churned immediately. One of them has not churned yet. And as a positive signal, we have seen them on the app quite a bit. So hopefully they don't churn. This will also be at the new price if they subscribe, and it would also be at the yearly. So optimistic about that. Could be our third customer. The new onboarding, I hope as well, can convert users at a higher rate. I've also considered doing a lifetime tier. I think that's probably a thing I'll do in the future just because people are pretty anti-subscription. Okay, so I want to talk about the new onboarding and what I'm actually going to be tracking to determine if the new onboarding is a success. One of the obvious metrics here is the new onboarding is a success if more people are taking the trial. I think that's an obvious metric. That's something I'm going to be looking at, obviously. I want a trial rate to be higher. Another thing I'm going to look at is, are people coming back to the app after X number of days? That's an important metric to see if people kind of understand the value prop of the app and are finding it useful. A lot of the users went into the app, signed up for the trial, used it once, and then never came back. Now, obviously that's not ideal. The ideal user for us is somebody that continues to come back over and over to the app, finds a ton of use out of it because they're just going to be a consistent subscriber. We don't want those users who have completely forgotten that they've subscribed. We want the users who actually find the app useful. So I'm going to be monitoring people's usage during the trial period and seeing if they come back to the app consistently. And if not, that is a ding against our onboarding, because what our onboarding is supposed to do is two things: teaches you how to use the app, gets you data, and then also shows you the value of the app, sells you the app, tries to get you to understand it. So there's a few other angles I can go down. If that doesn't look good, I might turn on notifications that remind you to, or suggest a recipe to you, try to get you to, go shopping, add it to your grocery list, whatever. But we'll see. We're going to monitor all of these. Hopefully we can see a good amount of users who are coming back multiple days. And also still, it's super early. We've only had 4 users go through the new onboarding, so we really have no clue how effective or non-effective it is. There might be a time where we decide that, ads are the way to speed it up, but who knows? So I'm also trying some new organic channels for growth. As we figured out, ads aren't this super easy, press a button and you just print money. It's really hard to get ads that are profitable. And so I'm trying some organic channels, and this is the one I teased in the beginning. We're a farming app now. What I mean by that, and this was a full idea from Claude. What I mean by that is Claude decided that what we could do is reach out to farming co-ops, and apparently there's some big database of farming co-ops, and reach out to them and offer them like a subset of the app's features, so that they could make recipes and send it out to the people who are part of their co-op. Now, as I understand it, co-ops often have like various kind of random vegetables and fruits that they're like selling, handing out, I don't know, that they're selling. And one of the reasons that they have a customer churn is because those people don't know what to do with those vegetables, and they're just kind of like, well, I have squash and zucchini, what do I cook? It's not easy right now to Google, I have squash and zucchini, what do I cook? And so what they do typically is they include recipes, but they're having to do the work to find these recipes. And so the Claude's idea was just take the app, email a bunch of these co-ops, hey, use this for free. We give you QR codes, we host the app, you can always go and send it to the people in your co-op and they can cook these recipes. I think these are really good ideas because that just could, in theory, get a ton of traffic for very little cost. It's like, if you think about it, one co-op is probably going to have, maybe, I think I think Claude estimated like 200 people. So, if you say 25% of them scan, that's 50 users per week who are looking at the recipes and are probably a little bit more high intent, because we know they like to cook. We know they're looking for, specific recipes with specific ingredients. So, yeah, I think this is a really interesting idea. Who knows if it'll work? We're still working on kind of making the subset of the app available on a web version and then emailing out to all of those co-ops. We'll check back in probably not just a week, but probably in a bit. But it's an interesting idea. Who knows if it works? Fingers crossed that it does. Another thing we're trying, and this is way more on the traditional route, is I've localized the app to 13 more locales. So now it's not just the US and Mexico. Now it's like almost all of Europe. I had a price floor plus an AI effectiveness floor. So we're kind of localized as much as we can. We'll see if that drives traffic. Ideally it does, but that's another angle we're trying. But overall, we have a lot of interesting, angles we're trying. Some more interesting than others. Hopefully we become a farming app. That'd be really funny to be, in a bunch of co-op boxes all across wherever. Overall, it's kind of a quiet week. I think we can just keep trying different organic channels. Ads haven't proven to be an angle that are just an easy gold mine sitting right there. I think there's a world where we retry either Apple ads or try Facebook ads or something like that, but we'd have to see some more progress from our new onboarding and some more retention leverage as well. I think that's a thing that maybe we try in the future, but right now, I'm okay with just slowly growing on the organic channels. I think we're getting some signal, very slowly, but we're getting some signal as to areas we need to improve on our app. And we're still getting lots of ideas around that. So should be an interesting next week, especially if I start that co-op thing. Hopefully some of those emails go out. We'll see if we get any responses, but I'm pretty excited about that just because it's a goofy idea. But I'll check back in next week and we'll see how it went.